So diets essentially amplify the noise, and that's, I think, a fact. Medication quiets the noise, aka the craving sensation and the preoccupation, but neither diets or medication teach the body what safety actually feels like. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and today I want to talk about a new research study that's making waves in the world of nutrition and mental health, because for the first time, scientists have formally defined something that so many women have been living with for decades without a name, and it's been everywhere. So I'm sure you've heard the term food noise. And the review article that I am talking about today is one that was published in the Nutrition and Diabetes Journal, and it's called Food Noise: Definition, Measurement, and Future Research Directions Study. Okay, so I'll repeat that again. It's called Food Noise: Definition, Measurement, and Future Research Directions Study. And it describes food noise as this persistent, unwanted, intrusive thoughts that come into your brain about food. And the thoughts that are coming up, they feel dysphoric, they feel distracting, and they oftentimes feel really distressing, and they bring a lot of discomfort. And these types of thoughts, you might feel like they're intruding on your day, they shape your choices, and they create this constant, almost like background noise and background hum, this like B-roll in your brain that you feel like you can't fully turn off. And while the research community is finally now just giving it a name, for so many women, so many people that I have worked with, myself included, we've been trying to make sense of this experience for most of our lives. And so having a name for it is actually really validating. And this study specifically focuses on defining food noise and exploring the psychological and biological mechanisms that fuel it. And the study even talks about the potential and the perspective of developing a measurement tool to assess it, which is a significant step forward in understanding something that affects millions of people, even if a lot of people have never heard the actual term before. Though, as I said before, it's definitely becoming more and more common to hear the term food noise. But here's the part that research can't capture. Food noise is not just a cognitive phenomenon, right? It's an emotional one. It's a nervous system one. It's an identity one. So today I want to take what the study found and I want to go deeper. I want to go into the why. I want to go into the lived experience and what this noise is actually communicating underneath the chatter. Okay, so let's get into it. But before we start, if you are new to me, my name is Alana Kessler. I'm a registered dietitian. I've been in this health and wellness, mindfulness space for 20 plus years, and I've worked clinically. I'm trained in functional nutrition and mindful neurobiology. I have done all the things, but my passion is truly helping people know and really find love with their bodies, lose weight, reconnect with themselves, overcome any kind of emotional or addictive behaviors with food, and just really live your best life. So if you are here and you are new, welcome, and we are going to jump right in. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple, please subscribe there as well. And if you're interested in entering into our free giveaway, our free monthly giveaway, where I offer a free one-on-one session, feel free to write us a rating and a review on Apple, take a screenshot and DM that to Be Well by AK, or you can email it at podcast@bewellbyak.com. Okay. So why is food noise so common? Okay, so this study explains that food noise becomes especially visible. This is so interesting when people start GLP-1s. And this term food noise really gained popularity with the popularity of GLP-1s, because when people got onto GLP-1s, they suddenly noticed the absence of it. Right? Their brains became quiet, similar to that you only can know dark because of light, and you can only know light because of dark. People only started to realize that they weren't having chatter about food and food noise when it wasn't there. Because when you're on the medication, the mental chatter disappears. And only then, right, can you really realize that it had been there all along. So let's talk about why food noise is so widespread in the first place. And from my perspective, the reason why I think it's so widespread is because food is the primary way that the nervous system tries to regulate when emotional expression, that feeling of safety, of individuation, of being yourself, when that's not there. And we live in a culture, especially as women, where we are encouraged to be agreeable, right? Stay on all the time in this kind of performance energy. We're encouraged to have it all together, do everything, take care of everyone else, right? Never be too much, right? Never be too hungry, too emotional, too needy. And food becomes the place and the experience. Really, it's really the experience of engaging with food where the body finally gets to exhale, the place where the system can soften. So, of course, the mind is going to fixate on that because it is anticipating safety. And so it's not obsession. Food noise is not obsession. It's really adaptation, right? It's adaptation. Food noise is your body trying to find a grounding, a safety in the only way it knows how. And the study outlines three components, right, of the part of food noise that impacts life the most, because we wouldn't be talking about food noise if it didn't impact our lives in some way. And so this study specifically outlines the three core components: preoccupation, persistence, preoccupation of thoughts, number one, the persistence of thoughts, and emotional distress. And all of these matter. But in real life, the part that affects people the most, in my opinion, is the meaning that they attach to the thoughts. Okay, so the study is defining the thoughts, but in real life, the part that affects people the most is the meaning that they themselves are attaching to the thought. So it's not, I'm thinking about food, right? This isn't what people think to themselves, like, oh, I'm thinking about food. Instead, they're thinking, what does this say about me, right? What does this mean about me that these are the thoughts in my head all the time, right? There's the shame, the distress, the fear of, in 1 second, they're going to be out of control. That's what really drains the mental health of it all and the feeling of self-trust. And it's not really the thoughts of food themselves. Can you see that? It's not really the thoughts of food themselves, because the thoughts and the noise become painful when you make it personal. When you make it about your character, about your worth, about your value, about your sense of self, that's when it becomes something that impacts your life. And when this happens, it could end up impacting your mental health and your ability to make decisions in your day-to-day life. And I like to call these micro activation loops, right? Tiny moments of stress that accumulate throughout the day. And this study touches on this, that food noise, the thoughts of food, and then the meaning that you attach to it, in my opinion, what that does is it creates this cognitive heaviness, this cognitive burden. And you probably have experienced it when you feel fatigued mentally, right? Like mental fatigue out of nowhere, because it's almost like you have this chatter, going on in your brain, this tape roll going on in your brain all day, but you're trying to focus at work and you're thinking about food. You're trying to be present with your family, but you're thinking about food. You're trying to make a simple choice, but it feels so difficult to make that choice. It feels so loaded. And so this chronic mental tug of war, what it really does is it steals bandwidth, it steals presence, it steals emotional resilience, it steals clarity, it steals confidence, right? It steals all these things, and it creates this decision fatigue before the day even begins. You've built a good life. From the outside, it looks like you have it all together. You eat clean, you work hard, you take care of everyone. But there's this one area that still feels impossible to master, and that is food. You can eat perfectly all day and still end up in the kitchen at night wondering why you keep doing this. You promise yourself you'll start fresh tomorrow, and I know you mean it every single time. But the cycle, it always finds its way back, especially when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, or when you're just tired of being the one that's holding it all together. And I get it because I lived that way for years. And what I learned is this: the problem, it was never about food. It was the pressure underneath it, the perfectionism, the self-doubt, the part of me that never felt safe and secure to just be me. And that's why I created the sober eating sequence. It's a proven 3-phase method that rewires the emotional patterns and the belief systems driving overeating so you can relax, trust yourself around food, and release weight completely naturally, without force and without obsession. Because when your body feels secure, it lets go. The cravings quiet, the self-punishment, it softens, and food, it stops being the thing that you have to fix. This is not another plan. This isn't another rule book. It's a revolutionary transformation for your nervous system, for your body, and for your identity. So join the sober eating movement today. And so food noise, it's not about hunger. It's about alertness. The food noise is coming because the brain is staying switched on because something inside doesn't feel safe enough for the brain to relax and not be on guard. Okay, so the food noise is really the vehicle for the brain to stay hypervigilant. So the study uses GLP-1s as an example to answer the question, do medications or diets fix food noise, right? There's this question in the study that gets asked, and the study uses GLP-1 medications as a case example because for many people, these medications absolutely reduce food noise dramatically. And that relief is real and it is meaningful. And I think that it is amazing for people. But from a root cause perspective, food noise and cravings are not the same. Okay, what the medication does is soften the hormonal release and visceral feelings in the body that cravings inspire within you while dulling the preoccupation with food. Okay, that is what the medication does. And so superficially, it reduces food noise, but food noise is a deeper emotional and neurological pattern. So yes, the medication can bring ease, but it doesn't rewrite the emotional structure that created the noise in the first place. Okay, and this is what we talk about when we talk about rewiring. And dieting, when we talk about that, research shows, as you probably know if you're listening to this, that restriction and diets and rules and all that stuff actually increases food noise, right? Maybe not in the beginning because we're in that new relationship energy with the diet and some other part of our brain is getting tempered. But once we settle in all of a sudden the food noise gets louder and, essentially diets do increase the food noise because ultimately the hunger hormones get increased, the hunger hormones get out of balance, you get more preoccupied with the foods that you're technically have rules around or have to eat in certain windows or are not allowed to eat at all, right? There's more thinking about it. If you're in a diet that follows a meal plan or that follows certain eliminations, you're probably thinking about it all the time. And there's a lot of fear of getting it wrong. I think that's a big one, right? Your fear of doing it wrong and screwing something up. And so diets essentially amplify the noise. And that's, I think, a fact. And so medication quiets the noise, aka the craving sensation and the preoccupation, but neither diets or medication teach the body what safety actually feels like. Okay, neither do that. Both are pacifiers in some way. And so, how do we start reducing the noise then? And in the study, it talks about the fact that it's working on a measurement tool, which is super important. But tools only help once we understand what the noise is actually protecting, right? We don't want to just make something go away without understanding what it's protecting so that we can get to a place where the whole root is healed, right? It's like you don't want to just put on makeup, right? Like expensive makeup on a face if the skincare is not good because it's still going to give you zits, right? It doesn't matter. The skincare has to be good. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the skincare. And so a lot of the practices that I teach in my sober eating programs help to reduce the chatter. And I'm going to go through some of them now. So one of them is to name it instead of fight it, right? So once you notice that the food noise comes in, you want to name it, right? Like, I'm not broken. This is food noise, right? Because that shame that you feel that we talked about earlier on, where you're personalizing the food noise, goes away when this type of language appears, right? This type of neutrality towards the experience appears. Okay, the second is you want to change the state of your nervous system. So you want to understand what's going on, right? Is this actual hunger or are you being activated by an emotion? And, can you meet that emotion where you're at, right? Whether that's a pleasant emotion or an unpleasant emotion, can you recognize that it's an emotion, meet that emotion where it's at, and then give yourself what you need for that emotion, right? These are some of the practices that I have in my program, especially the invisible weight detox specifically, which gives you the foundation of all of this stuff. Okay, the third is create safety around food. Okay, when meals are not moralized, right? When meals aren't, creating this good or bad dichotomy, the noise naturally decreases. The fourth is you want to listen for your unmet need. So food noise is often a messenger, right? It's giving you a message of what is going on in your emotional body, what you're looking to provide for yourself, right? Like if you're tired, what do you need? If you're stressed, what do you need, right? If you're lonely, right? You need to see if there's an unmet need underneath the chatter, which usually there is. And so you want to understand that the need is never the food. You might feel this urge to have the food, but it's never about the food. It's about the feeling underneath the food. And so let's talk about why food does have such a strong emotional grip, because this is something that the study doesn't actually fully explore. It hints at it, but it doesn't fully explore it. And I think it's important that we understand that food is our earliest source of soothing, connection, pleasure, presence, being cared for, right? The act of having food and engaging with food with our senses. Okay, this is our earliest source of feeling connection, of feeling soothed. And if potentially emotional expression and, this type of ability to express your needs, right, as a young adult, as a teenager, as a child, if your expression wasn't welcomed or you saw poor emotional regulation from your caregivers, food will become the emotional anchor in adulthood because you're just going to revert back to that wiring from being a baby, right? When you couldn't take care of yourself and you were cared for in these very reptilian, primitive ways, you're going to go back to that part of your brain for survival. And so you're not weak, right? You're not weak at all. You're just reverting back to an old program that is still there, even though you might be, in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right? Like it doesn't matter. You're going to go back there until you turn the light switch on and reprogram this, right? Because ultimately, food has always been the most accessible form of regulation for humans in general, right? At the end of the day, food noise, right? Food noise, it's the echo of every moment that you had to hold something alone. Okay, I want you to really hear that. Food noise is the echo of every moment that you had to hold something, an emotional experience, a feeling, a sensation alone by yourself. And so how awareness, right? How turning the light switch on awareness creates change. Because when we can name the food noise with the ways that I had talked about those 4 steps earlier, everything can become clear. And clarity is really a huge precursor for healing. Okay, so when we can name food noise, everything becomes clearer, right? This isn't I'm out of control anymore. It's my nervous system is activated, right? This isn't I'm obsessed with food anymore, right? It's like I'm overwhelmed and, my mind is going back to old programming and it's trying to stabilize me and give me safety, right? This isn't like I need to fix myself and I need to, get more rules, get more discipline. Really, it's just like I need to create a sense of grounding and safety within myself. So awareness actually turns the volume down, right? Awareness is almost like a medication in and of itself. It's really almost brilliant and revolutionary when you think of it that way. And when you think of it that way, you'll see and you start to practice these things because awareness isn't just a theory. You actually have to practice being aware. You will see that it turns the volume down. It removes the shame. It becomes something that you are looking to bring you that support that you know is going to get you to safety. Okay, so this study is really important. It's a really important milestone because it really does give language to an experience that so many people have carried secretly and silently and confused by. And it's great that now we have this name for it and it's recognized in these, really, great journals in medicine. It's amazing. But naming the noise, it's really just the beginning. It's just the beginning. It's really about understanding it and responding to it with compassion and nervous system attunement. That's what creates the real change. That is what creates the real change. And it's one thing to know that you need to do this. It's another thing to do the practices. It's really a practical change that you want to start to do. All right. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And I will see you next time on Emotional Eating Unwrapped.